Medical Intuitive Insights with your host, Dr. Gloria Warren, is a program that presents topics on medical intuition, holistic opportunities outside of mainstream society, and scientific research as applied today. Topics range from online intuitive readings to interviews unveiling alternative healing modalities and discussing them with inspirational leaders. Dr. Warren is the bridge within holistic arts while stressing the balance between the spiritual and physical self. So now, please welcome the host of Medical Intuitive Insights, Dr. Gloria Warren.
What if your brainwaves influence every decision you make? Could the secret to better health already exist inside your brain? Are successful people thinking differently or simply operating in a different wavelength? Welcome to Medical Intuitive Insights. Today we're exploring one of the most fascinating subjects in modern neuroscience, the brainwave connection, the science behind health, thinking, and success. Even Napoleon Hill knew this. Every thought you have, every emotion you feel, every memory you create, every decision you make is accompanied by electrical activity in the brain, proven through science. References will be placed at the end of this show when it's posted online. Scientists call these electrical patterns brain waves. Although invisible to the naked eye, brain waves may influence focus, creativity, memory, sleep, healing, emotional balance, decision-making, and performance. The fascinating reality is that your brain is constantly changing. Frequency depends upon what you're doing, how you're feeling, and even what you're thinking. Today, we'll examine the major brainwave states and discover how they may influence your health, thinking, and success, as well as your human potential. By the way, when we're finished with the different brain waves, I will discuss in the last section how you can actually change your brain wave from one to the other. If you want success, if you want good health, I'll let you know how you can actually do this. We have a guest today, Nurse Peggy Smith from the Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. She is here. She's also a hypnotist, which I know she has a lot of knowledge regarding the mind, the human brain, and wavelengths have a lot to do with that, actually. So understanding the electrical brain, Bazer and his colleagues in 2001 and Busaki in 2006 both agree that brainwaves themselves contain approximately 86 billion neurons in the brain, and they communicate through tiny electrical impulses. When these millions of neurons fire together, rhythmic patterns emerge. These patterns create measurable frequencies known as these brain waves. Think of a football stadium. One person standing up creates little impact, but when thousands move together, a visible wave emerges, especially if they do the wave. Brain waves function similarly. They represent synchronized activity occurring across large networks of neurons. So why do these brain waves actually matter? Because they influence so much. They can influence your attention, your memory, your learning, reaction times, mood, emotional regulation, sleep quality, problem solving, and even your own productivity and daily professional success. Different brainwave patterns support different mental functions, just as a car uses different gears for different driving conditions. The brain uses different frequencies for different tasks. The brain's amazing flexibility, it can help promote a healthy brain, and also does not remain stuck in one frequency. It's flexible. It can go from one to the next, and therefore I'll show and talk to you about how we can change our brainwave frequency. Instead, it moves fluidly among multiple brainwave states throughout the day. This flexibility is called neural adaptability. Many research believe adaptability is one of the key indicators of cognitive health. Um, so you can ask yourself, could many mental health challenges involve difficulty transitioning between brain states? And researchers continue to investigate this possibility. So, hello, Peggy. How are you doing today?
Good morning. It's nice to be with you again today. This is going to be a fascinating subject, and I'm looking to add to some of from a nursing, actually, physiological perspective that came up as I was reviewing your information. But wonderful. Let's get started.
Okay. So here today, first we are going to examine 5 different brainwaves, the main brainwaves, and we're going to start with the higher ones, the beta and the gamma waves. So the highest one here would be the gamma waves, but let's start with the beta. Beta, it dominates most of our waking hours. I think it's really important because of that. 13 to 30 hertz. Okay. And when you are reading, driving, working, planning, solving basic problems, you're generally operating in beta. So that you're in beta waves fairly often. As you can see on the slide there, you have all the different wavelengths. And it's a healthy beta, according to Freeze of 2005. The benefits include alertness, concentration, organization, decision making, productivity. And there we go. These are things you're doing throughout your day, whether it's getting ready for work, deciding what to wear, figuring out what to tell people in a meeting. Very important. This is where most careers operate. Students take tests in beta. Business owners make decisions in beta. Leaders often spend much of their day in beta, including myself. But the problems can occur when beta remains elevated for long periods of time. That's not good. Potential effects: anxiety, stress, racing thoughts, irritability, poor sleep. Many experts describe modern society as living in a chronic high beta environment. Constant notifications, constant stimulation, constant demands. The brain never truly rests while it's in beta. So our cell phones and things of that nature, computers, we're in beta. So now let's look at gamma waves. Gamma, that's up there right at the top. If you notice how quick those lines are together, gamma is 30 to 100 hertz. Gamma waves themselves are the fastest commonly measured frequencies. Engel and his colleagues, and Singer and their colleagues, 1999, 2001, associated gamma with peak awareness, insight, memory formation, information integration, advanced learning. Gamma has sometimes been called the aha moment frequency. I found that when I was teaching special ed, a lot of these hyperactivity disordered children were in gamma most of the time. And I think that's why maybe they had trouble flipping down in frequencies to the other waves. So just keep it in mind. I know geniuses operate between gamma and beta quite often. They usually can flip around to any of the waves quite frequently and by choice. So many high performers report moments when information suddenly comes together. Scientists believe gamma activity may help connect information stored across multiple brain regions, proven in 2001 by a couple different research studies. This may actually explain sudden insights, creative breakthroughs, and innovative thinking. So I'm sure, Peggy, you have been in gamma quite often in your life as well as your children, just like my own. Those high IQ children are just off the walls sometimes, but we let them do that. How about you with yours?
Uh, well, my children actually, a couple of them, were in that high IQ range, and the difference between the normal kids was so stark that my pediatrician just said there's nothing wrong with those other 2 children. It just like, you got blessed with 2 really bright ones to start off with, which are very challenging. But I was actually a special ed teacher prior to my 45-year nursing career, and I worked with the lower I don't like, the way we classify our things, the lower IQ range.
Right, right.
And so what I found was more, not so much, I found a lot of short circuiting, I guess, of the different waves. When you're working with that population. But there's still ways, unique, challenging ways that it's individualized for everybody. Um, and there's ways of reaching those children using the same, philosophies and theories that you're presenting today, uh, by just increasing or connecting them to the waves that resonate with what they need to progress.
I
But it's
I fully agree
very,
with you.
um, and then I also, I talk a lot on my show about hydration. You're talking about electric, conductivity here. Hydration is one way to, especially people that aren't used to being in the higher waves, to make it easier to access that electric conductivity. And we
Yeah,
always forget that.
yes. No, I get that. It's that high electrical conductivity that increases those brain waves, and it's supercharged, like a supercharged battery, and their brains are going million miles a minute. Now, when I was teaching special ed children, I remember that they were like, oh, this one can't read, and I could teach them how to read. Within like 2 months they could read better than the others in the class, because I knew how to deal with those type of children. I had the same problem when I was little, so I didn't pay much attention, but I was able to do everything I needed to do. And these children just needed to get their attention. You just had to get their attention. You had to keep their attention, and you had to have little games that they would remember everything really quickly, because you couldn't hold their attention for long sometimes. And then you give them reminders to take home and put on the refrigerator. And, it was so rewarding for me, as well as promising for the children, that when they thought they were having, maybe they were thinking too slowly, and yet they were thinking too quickly, the ones I had. And I was very grateful that I could teach them so quickly, because their brains were going this fast. So I think it's something to consider in the educational field. I had a master's in education and everything, so um, it's something to consider in the education field, that perhaps our approach needs to be more variant, like the Montessori method. They find out what the children are really good with and good in, and then they just run with it. You know what I mean? I love that part.
Well,
So,
it's important to recognize the different learning styles. And I have children that have been through the Montessori programs, and then my last one was in a more generic YMCA program, and found that he was the most socially adept. He's had better people skills. Um,
yeah.
so it's important to have balance, just like we talk about, in other holistic areas.
Hmm.
Because batteries run down. If you don't keep charging your battery, it doesn't work, and you come to a sudden stop. So we have to know how to recognize, and each child's battery is different.
Yeah.
And coming from a healthcare where it's a shift work, and police officers, the first responders have shift work. Uh, People in manufacturing, I know as a nurse in ICU, we learned that between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., your cardiac output is the lowest in the 24-hour period. It doesn't matter what shift you work. So, with us being aware of that, that's why
Wow.
we just can't keep our eyes open at 3 a.m., no matter how much sleep we got before we came in.
Right.
And so we had little tricks, get out, go outside for a second, or just walk around, jump, actually stretch your legs.
Yes.
Because no matter what you do physiologically, you can't change nature. Uh, so you have to learn ways to work, and that's the same true with children of different learning abilities. You have to
Yeah,
work with your.
absolutely. Okay. So we're going to take a commercial break. Stay right there. When we return, we'll explore the brainwave states most often associated with creativity, intuition, innovation, and some of humanity's greatest discoveries. We'll be right back.
Mike Zorek, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Warren. We have Nurse Peggy Smith with us as well. Let's dive into 2 more brain waves, the alpha and the theta waves. So alpha waves, they're like the 3rd down the list. Oh, there's our slide. Wonderful. Alpha exists between active thinking and relaxation. It's often called the bridge state. Okay, you may enter alpha during prayer, meditation, nature walks, relaxation, just sitting there outside listening to nature, quiet reflection, hopefully by water. So why does alpha matter? Jensen Masahari in 2010, Klimsek in 1999, and others, research suggests alpha may support creativity, emotional balance, learning, stress reduction, and mental clarity. I find that artists are in the alpha wavelength when they're actually creating something, which I love. Many people report their best ideas arriving when they stop forcing solutions. They think about shower ideas, walking ideas, vacation ideas. These often emerge when the brain shifts into alpha. So here you see the slide with alpha waves, 8 to 12 hertz, and it obviously helps with many different things. If you need a copy of the slide, please put it in the comments. I will send you the slide. So theta waves are a little slower than the alpha waves. It's 4 to 7 hertz. According to Kahn and Polich 2006 and Tang and his colleagues 2015, meditation and brain waves changes. They assist by theta waves that frequently appear during dreaming, deep meditation, visualization, creative imagination, the brain's innovation zone. Basically, many artists, inventors, musicians, writers described receiving inspiration from seemingly nowhere. So you see on how the alpha and the alpha and the theta work together. So they help each other, which is great. So more further research in 2010 and before believe that theta may support memory integration, pattern recognition, creative insight. This is one reason visualization techniques have become popular with athletes and performers. The brain often rehearses before the body performs. So one thing about this particular wave is that when I'm in theta, that's when I get a lot of my ideas. And if I want to go into theta for more ideas, I take out like a word search or a Where's Waldo or something, and you start to see patterns or Sudoku, and that kind of puts me in that theta wave. So it's creative insight as well. This is one Success and where success and creativity comes through in the theta, many breakthroughs occur, not when we work harder, but when we access the different brain states. It really pays to rest when you're trying to keep up that high mental state. Now, if you can access more than one wavelength at a time, you've got it made. Sometimes the answer is not more effort. Sometimes it is a different frequency of thought. So here we're going to see the delta wave, and that's 0.5 to 4 hertz. So delta represents the slowest major brainwave state. It dominates deep sleep. Why does deep sleep matter? During deep sleep, the body performs critical maintenance. We can take that slide down, by the way. But that critical maintenance is very important. We need that. We have to have that. Our brain needs it to stay healthy. It's the delta waves are known for tissue repair, immune function, hormone regulation, memory consolidation, and there's research studies that'll be at the end of the show backs all this up. Metabolic recovery, those delta waves, it's the brain's cleaning system. You need to get delta waves. You need that deep sleep because recent researchers have highlighted the lymphatic system. And this system helps remove waste products from the brain during sleep. You know, if you're running at really high levels in the gamma and the beta, you're going to end up with a lot of further dead cells and things like that. But if you get into the delta wavelength frequency, it'll help to clean out all of that and toxins that are developed from these decaying cells. Some studies suggest deep sleep may help clear proteins associated with neurodegenerative diseases as well. So what happens when the delta sleep is lost? Insufficient deep sleep may contribute to fatigue, memory problems, poor concentration, emotional instability, reduced recovery. You know, you ever have that where you just don't get enough sleep and you'll turn around and your memory starts to go wacky. I mean, I'm sure this happens to all of us at some time, right, Peggy? You know, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't remember where I put my car keys, or why is it I'm having trouble remembering this, or I don't understand this, you know, but that's why you need more delta sleep. And both Peggy and I think we do have a hard time getting enough sleep sometimes, so lack of delta does occur frequently. Plus,
Lori,
a
I'd
lot of
like to, if you don't mind, insert here. Although we've identified the individual waves, I think from a practical point of view, and working with people that maybe are having anxiety about test performance, or and you're studying for nursing or medical boards, or the LSAT to get into the law school and everything. Um, you study, you cram, you do all-nighters, and sometimes up until you're ready to go get the test. And what you really need to be doing is trust your own heart and gut, because the day before you take that big exam, the best thing you should do, go get a pedicure, a massage, uh, because your mind needs time to process all the cramming that you've been doing in the higher waves. And if you're really going to be able to access all that in a focused way when you're on the exam, or maybe a physical race you're going to run or something,
Mhm.
you need to spend 12 to 24 hours actually deliberately going down to the relaxation mode, and just trust that your brain knows what it needs to do. Because I worked on actually a night shift prior to taking my nursing boards, and I would not tell anybody to do that. And actually dozed off a few minutes, to wake up to the proctor. Wasn't computerized then. The proctor standing over my desk smirking 'cause she thought sure I was going to fail the test. Uh, and I looked at the tests, and it was actually a question about elderly people and their sex life. And that's what I woke up to after this unplanned little mini nap I took during the exam. And she was sure that, and it was a lesson that I've carried on the last almost 50 years, because could have had a really negative effect.
Mhm.
So everything is still about balance. A person that is sleep deprived, not only are you going to be brain foggy and everything else, you're actually, as a driver, as bad as somebody under the influence of medication or alcohol.
Yep.
Uh, and, sometimes people, they have to do what they have to do to go to work and the shifts they work, but you just have to be aware, that maybe you need to get an extra cup of coffee or something before, or just, put some splash water on your face. I used to do long driving trips from the south up north, and you drive with the window open at night, and air blowing on you and things like
Hmm.
that. Um, it's it doesn't. It's not helpful to just do one wave and exclusively of the others. You have to let everybody, all parts of your brain, work together as a team and trust your gut.
It's interesting that you brought up cramming for a test because theta waves, and that's, that meditation. The nickname for that is intuitive vision, intuitive thought. You know, it actually nicknamed theta waves that because you need to rely more on that when you go to actually take that test. And it doesn't mean be tired and half asleep. It means be able to tap into your intuition. That's also seen in alpha waves and can be seen in every wave depending on how you approach it. But I think you need to cram a week before, cram another night a week, half a week before, and then get a good night's sleep, just like you said, because you would be surprised in how much you can remember, even if you're not cramming the night before. It's amazing. My thing was, is I always got straight A's in college, and what I would do is I would read the night before, and just before I would go to sleep, and I was able to remember more because it was the last thing I did before I went to bed. But I wouldn't cram per se. I would save that a week before, and it really helped. So I don't know.
Well,
It's
it's
just
also important, and I think people that are very productive and very competitive and very creative also, they say keep a notepad beside your bed when you go to bed at night, because sometimes
mhm,
you wake up with a, fantastic idea, and if you don't jot it down on the notepad, go back to sleep, and then you can pick up that thought in the morning when you're rested and able to process it. But a lot of
right.
the very productive people, that's just a daily habit. It's part of their night routine. They look at their calendar, they plan on what they're doing the next day, and kind of have a vision of how they'd like it to flow, go to sleep, and sometimes the brain will wake them up to say, "Don't forget this idea too." But
Right.
knowing your learning style. Some people need to make flashcards, even homemade flashcards on 3x5 index cards to remember things. Other people need to visually draw something or have little phrases like, I guess what comes to as the guitar
Mnemonic.
string.
Yeah.
Yeah, every good
Yeah.
boy does, on the guitar strings, or back when we had stenographers learning how to type in high school in our years, it was what the lazy fox jumped over something. I don't remember the whole thing anymore, but it
Right.
basically was a sentence that got all your fingers getting memory practice.
You know, I think it's really important though for people to realize, well, drug-induced deep sleep does not do the same. It doesn't clean out your brain. Your brain is overtaxed then trying to clean out the drugs from your brain the next day. So got to keep that in mind. So health begins during sleep though. Many people focus on nutrition and exercise, yet sleep may be one of the most important biological investments we make, especially for your health. Your brain repairs tomorrow's thinking while you sleep tonight. So remember that. So don't go away. Coming up next, we'll connect brainwaves directly to professional success, performance, leadership, and decision making. We'll be right back.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Radio show host and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back. You've been watching Medical Intuitive Insights. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Warren, and we have our special guest here today as well, Nurse Peggy Smith. Today, we've been exploring the brain-wave connection, the science behind health, thinking, and success. So let's talk about those brain waves and success. Success is not simply about intelligence. It often involves managing mental states and many brain waves at one time. So focus is very important. High performers frequently learn to engage, focus with beta activity, beta brainwave activity. And then there's creativity. We talked a little about that. Innovators often alternate between beta and alpha. They work intensely between those two, between beta and alpha. Then they step away and the solution appears. So recovery, elite performers understand recovery. Without recovery, performance drops, mistakes increase, motivation declines. Emotional regulation is when successful individuals often demonstrate strong emotional control. Brainwave research suggests emotional regulation may involve efficient communication between multiple brain regions and brainwave activity. Decision making, the quality of your decision depends on the state of your brain. An exhausted brain thinks differently than a rested brain. Hence, we were talking about cramming for exams and things that even with your work, if you have to give a meeting to do a sales meeting or something, a big meeting of some sort, you need to have a rested brain so you can think relaxed and clearly, so you don't stay in those high gamma and perhaps not always in beta when you're talking to your viewers or whatever, your meeting. So a stressed brain needs to see different options than a calm brain. Success may be a state dependent. The question may not always be how smart are you. The better question may be, what state is your brain operating in? So these are some things that we need to talk about. So you need to be able to flip and switch from one area of the brain to the other, as well as your different brainwave activity levels. And this is maybe not so easy for some certain people, but it's easy for me because I can ignite my whole brain at once if I need. But I don't want to do that. It's very exhausting. And then I'll need more delta waves to try and clear out all the crap in my brain. So if you look at gamma waves being high level cognition, you become exhausted the more gamma waves your brain is in. Each level of brain waves has a different stress on your brain. So gamma, too much gamma, you can end up with a higher cortisol level. Your whole body can have problems. And then we have beta waves and chronic stress. If you're in beta waves way too much, chronic stress starts to happen, and then there's your cortisol level going up, and you're going to have all the effects of that as well, physical effects. So remember, health is really important, even regarding brainwave activity. So you don't want to stay in that fight or flight too long, in other words. We have alpha waves. That's that calm, the amygdala type of calmness that comes with meditation and prayer, deep breathing, nature, mindfulness. the relaxation, but not too relaxed. Just, a little more of a Zen feeling to that, your brain, where it's just like, oh, yes, like the smell of fresh cut grass. It's just, or pine trees as you drive through the woods. We've already determined in our last show that both Peggy and I are woodsy type people. We love the smell in the woods. So, um, and then we have the alpha is also known as a recovery mode because it has that Zen state. But that delta is what cleans out that amygdala and decreases cortisol, and the lymphatic system becomes highly activated then in the delta. So these are things you need for your health. So Peggy, I was going to ask you, what what do you do to try and get deeper rest? Because I know you don't sleep long. So do you have any little tricks up your sleeve that perhaps we need to
Well,
know
I've
about?
learned that although I'm, not perfect at practicing what I preach, but I've learned that having rituals really does, you know, high functioning people like to think that basic rules of nature sometimes don't apply to them. Um,
Mm,
and they do. The human needs rituals. It needs things, comfortable expectations to function. Because if you're always presenting them with new ideas, not connected to anything else, like, where'd that come from? That's not one of the ways, though. In your evening rituals, it has been recommended for years by the Harvard School of Medicine that turn off all electronics so that your brain can actually relax. Not because our
mhm,
phones, our TVs, everything is, unless you're on call at night and need your phone on, you should really turn it off. There's nothing that's so critical, that won't be different in the morning if you miss the call. But you need to get that blue light influence off. You need to wind down physically, whether it's, some people take their baths in the morning, others in the evening, whatever works in your schedule. Um, and you need to not eat after a certain time at night, really. If you have too much food, your body, instead of relaxing, is going to be working hard to digest the food. Uh, you know,
yeah.
Limiting high inflammatory foods and high sugar, which are sugars mainly, and carbs, uh, that interferes with your body to rest. And one example in medicine that we see often, if somebody has a very critical surgery, very often they're actually perhaps put on artificial ventilation, a ventilator for the first 12 hours or something.
Hmm,
It's so that their body actually it's a forced sleep, but your body needs that to heal physiologically.
yeah.
Um, and you have better outcomes with medical procedures and things like that when that's necessary. Um, but we have a lot of, getting your mindset, the mindfulness that you talked about, having a predictable schedule. And years ago we used to think that, eh, you were really bright if you could master multitasking. And then 10 years later the business said, no, you don't want to multitask, you're not as effective, and you're,
Mhm.
focus on one, get it done right, and then go to the next thing. And that makes sense, it's common sense.
Yeah, I love that you do ritual type of things. And that's something that I think is very important. You've actually taught me about that even further. And here I have my blue light blockers, on. I did turn off my blue light on my computer, but every time I shut down and come back on, it's back on. I'll just wear my glasses half the time, you know. But it's your
Even things
schedule.
like hydration help you be more aware. Mindfulness helps you, not just be more aware, but actually appreciate
Hmm.
the simple things. And we make life more complicated than it has to be. The
Yeah.
universe gifted us with these waves and a lot of other ways that, if we were unconscious, but, had our bodies, we would still function and, you know, be able to excel in the areas we need to excel. We fight ourselves, though. We're our own worst enemy in most cases, even in something like this.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that pray before bed, and that's theta waves. So it's interesting you're coming down on the scale from theta, and you're going to hopefully go more easily into delta. So that's their like ritual that actually helps to put them in a deeper sleep, a more relaxed sleep. Grateful for that meditation, also visualization, guided imagery. um, and any type of prayer that you're used to would help. So, switching from theta to delta, obviously you're not conscious, you're more unconscious and into that deep sleep. But I love that you said rituals at night. Don't stop eating at a certain time. High blood sugar can keep your brain from getting deep rest. And then it's not just blood sugar, your heart rate. So scary movies may stop you from falling into because it's going to increase your pulse rate and heart rate, and that's not good. More relaxing. I know I have my routine, and I do that. I'm very grateful that I know to do that, and I'm going to continue to do it. Some people like to sit, relax, have a glass of wine. I don't do that because I don't want the sugar before I go to bed, and alcohol is sugar. So I find that I get into a deeper rest, a deeper delta state without anything with sugar before bed. But I do notice like 2 hours before bed, I'm like, where's the cookies and milk? Or, I can't help it because I eat early sometimes and I get hungry, but I'll just try to
Gloria,
limit
one
my
word you've
portion.
used several times in the last few minutes is you're grateful for this, you're grateful for that. An actual
Mhm.
conscious gratitude practice
Yeah.
in the evening to be grateful that you're even there to have the problems that you haven't solved yet. There are people that would love to
Mhm.
be outside and work on problems. Be grateful for, all kinds of, for your health. You made it through another day. It's okay if it didn't go completely as planned. And it's important to have a
Right.
sense of humor, you know, it,
Yeah.
and a sense of compassion and love for yourself. And that's really hard, even forgiving yourself for not trusting in your own judgment, even, or for being upset that you weren't
Yeah.
perfect because we weren't meant to be perfect. All of those things feed our brain and feed the waves that we need. Music is a good way to us. You're trying to, when I want my dogs to get ready for bed, we play nice, soft, relaxing music. And I've experimented
Mhm.
with the music, and I actually see their behaviors change as the beats change. Um, so there's whatever resonates with somebody works, but I think it's important for all of us to have a regular gratitude practice routine. Uh,
Absolutely.
and
So I did want to cover, we have Napoleon Hill's book here, and Napoleon's thought about um, what he believes. I want to just go through these real fast. What he understands and his perspective on Brainwave lengths and success. He wants everyone to consider these key points. He believes that positive thoughts can influence brainwave patterns. I know that's true. It enhances creativity and focus.
it
Emphasizes
feeds
the
your
importance.
neuropeptides, gives you
Yep,
healthier neuropeptides.
absolutely. Here's our tie-in with the neuropeptides. It can influence definitive purpose, and definitive purpose aligns brainwaves with success-oriented frequencies. Visualization techniques recommended to help manifest goals. He suggested maintaining positive mental attitude can lead to a higher vibrational state. That's another show. We're going to talk about that vibrational state next time. Suggested maintaining a positive mental attitude can lead to higher vibrational states and conducive to success. Advocates for power of mastermind groups to harmonize brainwaves, to amplify it. Um, Tony Robbins, idea. The Tony Robbins theory, we'll call it that. Self-reflection can encourage to tune higher brainwave frequencies to personal growth. So there's just give you a little certain perspective from somebody else that is very successful. By the way, his real last name was Thillins. He had the Thillins baseball stadium in Chicago. So a friend of the family. So nice person, beautiful person. So anyways, we are going to be taking another commercial break. Um, mm, what state is your brain operating in? Is the real big question. After the break, we'll discuss practical ways to improve brain wave health and optimize human performance. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
Welcome to Back to Medical Intuitive Insights. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Warren. We're here with Nurse Peggy Smith. And this section is really kind of exciting here. We are going to talk about optimizing your brainwave health. Research suggests that several activities may support healthy brainwave function. And one, which we just touched base on before the commercial break, sleep, the foundation of brain health. You need good sleep. Exercise improves the blood flow and neuroplasticity. That was discussed by Siegel in 2020 and Lazar and his colleagues in 2005. Another way, you have the choice as well. Meditation, any type of meditation, may increase the alpha and theta activity, especially as you get closer to bedtime. You know, it's not just all about theta and delta for sleep. Alpha does get involved. And having the conscious choice of actually sitting there and meditating, you can bring your brain waves down into theta activity, which is closer to delta, makes it easier for you to fall asleep. And usually that means a deeper sleep. So other things that help are deep breathing, helps to regulate the stress response. It helps to take you out of the gamma, the fastest brainwave activity, and bring you back down to delta if you need be, or even alpha states. And that's not just that. You can go deeper and deeper depending on how you focus on those actual counting and deep breaths and just that simple action. It helps. Learning new skills strengthens neural pathways. I do Sudoku, very common with that. Social connection, going out, listening to some music with friends, supports emotional health, social health, cognitive function. And one of my favorite, time in nature, reduces stress and improves mental clarity. So I'd like to thank Peggy Smith. Thank you for being here today. You want to let people know on how they can get a hold of you or even add something more to our discussion? Feel free.
So my podcast is The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. It airs 1 p.m. Eastern Time on my YouTube channel by the same name. And this Saturday, actually, I have a guest who's kind of a similar cousin to the topic we've talked about. Brownell Landrum is a TED speaker and an author of The Art and Science of Wishing and the Cosmic Wishes children's book. And she has a new book coming out, The Art and Science of Wishing at Work. So, it's going to be really tied into this. Now we know what waves that we need, and she'll be more clear. And also Dr. Bruce Kolowski, our resident reincarnation specialist, will be sharing this topic with her. So it's going to be, you've given us a foundation, Gloria, of what brain waves are going to be involved in wishing, because many of us we grew up with our mother saying, "Stop wishing, come back to earth." Uh, that's not reality wishing, but wishing plays an important part of accessing the waves that we've talked about. Uh,
It's fascinating having those two on one show. That's going to be interesting. Wishing to be reincarnated. No, sorry. I'm sure they have other tie-ins than that, and I can't wait to hear what they have to say. That's
it,
that's
we
not
have
a
a lot
normal.
more control over our destiny than we have been raised to believe that we do. And, if we know how to access the proper brain waves, we can have more control over our destiny in all areas of
Oh,
our life.
wonderful. Yeah.
So, but it's been great being with you today. Wonderful topic. And thank you for having me this week.
Oh, my pleasure. So the human brain is one of the most extraordinary structures in existence. Every moment your life is accompanied by electrical rhythms, shaping your thoughts, emotions, your health, and performance. Who would think you can improve your health through brainwave activity? There's been research, it shows it. So the goal is not to remain in one brainwave state, it's to be flexible, to focus when focus is needed, to create when creativity is required, to rest when healing is necessary, and to move fluidly between these states as life demands. Perhaps the true success is not about working harder. Perhaps it begins by understanding the remarkable instrument between our ears. Because when we better understand our brain, we better understand ourselves. You know, I had somebody tell me your heart is the main organ of your body. Well, your heart wouldn't work without your brain, and vice versa. But I really think that they do communicate through etherical synaptic responses and electrical activity. But I do believe that the brain dictates uh, how to stay healthy. Your heart, I think, dictates the truth. So listen to your heart as well as consider your brain health. Thank you for joining me here on Medical Intuitive Insights. And remember, your brain is always listening to your habits, your thoughts, and your choices. Train it wisely, rest it deeply, and use it intentionally. There, but for the grace of God, go I, and choose your brain waves wisely. Good night.
This has been Medical Intuitive Insights with host Dr. Gloria Warren. Tune in each week as Gloria shares over 40 years of experience and yearns to provide knowledge derived from intuition and research. Wednesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern.